Yo, what up, though? What up, though? Welcome to a special edition of I Often Wonder, the collabo edition. I'm here with my homeboy, fresh out of Cali, California love, Mr. L. Jeffrey Moore,
How's it going?
director, writer, actor, and all the above, all around good guy. He happened to hit me up today and he dropped a little something in my spirit. I said, let's see if we can go on the show and talk about this. But before we do all that, let's get all the preliminaries and everything out of the way. You know, for those who are not used to us, you can catch us here on the IOW network. We have two shows. That's right, two shows. We have the IOW Sports Network streaming live every Monday and Thursday. On Monday, we go live at 4 o'clock, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Thursday, 5 o'clock, same platforms. And then if you just want to talk about something, get off your chest, we have our sister station, I Often Wonder, where we touch every subject known to man. Nothing is off limits. Hey, what's up, Lamar? What's going on? That's my other co-host, Wildcard Mar. What's up, Mar? You can catch us every Thursday on YouTube, and that's my other co-host that's chiming here, Mr. Wildcard Mar. And download the app. That's the IOW Network app, streaming on all of your devices. So if you have a Apple device, go into the Apple Store, you can download the IOW Network. Well, yours truly, Mr. L. Jeffrey Moore show is on there. Also, if you have that other device, the Android stuff, you can go into your Google Play Store and download that. The same app where you have Ars Paradoxica on there, the White Vault, all kinds of music, all kinds of everything. Now we got it out the way. Let's get on to our subject of today. I don't know if you heard, but Mr. Joe Rogan has been in the news today.
He has.
Yes, he has. And so Jeff had told me about us, and he said we should do something on it. So we're going to do a special edition. We're going to talk about what Mr. Rogan said, and we're going to take it from a different standpoint and see what should be the solution to what happened and what can be a teachable moment to what he said. What's up, man? What's going on?
Dude, man, just realizing that the attempt to survive out in these COVID streets, they're real, bro. I mean, just straight up, like, you go 2 years of this mess, and it has actually started to weigh down on me, right?
Right.
And like the whole thing of going out to work and then still having to abide by, all of these regulations, where it just really seems like no one knows what the hell is really going on. Yeah, it's just bad. It's bad news bears all the way around. And we are starting to see the effects of our whole social dynamic play out in real time, right? Like between children, between adults, between just trying to do the quote unquote normal things. So, I will admit that the Rona finally caught up to me not too long ago. I am feeling great, and I tell you, here's the thing that I've realized, and I'm still not downplaying it. I never have, right? For the most part, but the whole concept of working out, the whole concept of eating well,
right,
taking all of the supplements, the extra supplements, that you need, really, I believe, really played out. Like I was symptomatic, or rather I was really feeling ill for 2.5 days. Like it hit me a Saturday night, then I was laid up in bed all day Sunday and Monday, and then I shit you not, Tuesday popped right up. I was like, all right, I'm not like trying to, like run marathons, but I'm like, all right, I'm good. Let's go get tested to see if it really was it, because like the real thing, you have to deal with is, you're out for so many days, like you gotta go to work. Right. You gotta make your money to be able to take care of yourself and the ones that you love. And seeing everything play out in real time, when everybody was getting sick and everybody needed to get tested, and you couldn't just walk in to a testing facility, just to do it. We're just seeing how these things are playing out. The Biden administration finally was like, oh, we should start sending tests out. I'm like, no shit. So anyway, yeah. And then come to realize that you can test positive, like really months. I guess it really depends on your body, but during the week that I was recuperating and was better and was able to walk around and go out, I got tested like 3 times that week. All 3 tests came back positive, but then I realized that, okay, this is going to be in my system for a while. So seeing how this is playing out in the work environment, like where I work, everybody was getting the Omicron, right? I guess I got it. I don't know. I don't know which version I had. I'm kind of like, if anything, if it was the Delta and it affected me that way, where I wasn't like deathly ill or anything like that, then, hopefully the antibodies, have kicked in. And so, now I don't have to worry about it. And this is not saying I'm going to start jumping out in the middle of a freeway, but I'm good.
Yeah, Lamar just chimed in too. He said he had the Rona. He said the Rona was a bitch, had me down for 2 weeks.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah, I remember too. He was gone away from the studio for a while. We had to bar him out of here.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Shout out to Mel for the Man Down podcast.
What's up?
So for what we came here for, Mr. Joe Rogan is in the news for using the N-word.
Yep.
They put together a compilation of videos where Joe Rogan was seen using the N-word with no context. We will say that.
Yeah.
With no context behind why he was saying it. But now people are outraged. I think NDRE have pulled their music from Spotify, and a few other people were chiming in on this whole thing about him using the N-word. So Jeff, what do you feel about that?
Man, my initial reaction, because I woke up this morning and I was sent those clips, and as I'm watching it, I'm like, because I'm a filmmaker and because I know the power of good editing, like this is just bad. This doesn't of course set Rogan off, take him off the hook for some of the things that he said, but I've also seen some of those episodes where I know the context of what he's talking about. Now,
now go into that, because I think that's important. Go into the context of the ones you know about.
Yeah, and honestly, it is important, because once you actually listen to the shows, and here's the thing, to his detriment, because his format is long form, like you would have to be a consistent listener of his program. Like you would have to, go through whole 3 hours, which I do, because I mean, and if I'm being real, the reason like LJ Presents wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me having been inspired by the Joe Rogan experience. Because I do appreciate the fact that he has these long form discussions, and that his format actually digs deeper into the hows and whys. It's not just sound bites, and it's not just the flavor of the day. You know what I mean? So because I've heard some of those episodes where I know the context, I'm just basically like, yeah, okay. All right. I know the context. Like, okay, do I now the real question is like, do I give him permission to use the word? Actually,
there you
right?
go. There you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
Yeah. And that's really the big thing, because in some of those things, like in some of those episodes, he'll like it's always a preface of the how and why. And it's not like I don't even want to go into I let that slide, because honestly, all of these words are spells, right? If we want to get metaphysical with it, am I going to let this word affect me in a particular way? Now, mind you, of course, if someone's using it in a derogatory way, yeah, let's get the pitchforks out, and let's take them to town. And at the same time, we should worry about what's really happening here, and that is the oldest trick in the book, divide and conquer. So how I feel about him using the word, I think is more or less irrelevant than why this particular situation is being put to task, and what can we do as a community as a whole to learn from it. And then, well, we've done enough learning from it. We all know using the N-word is not the move, I think, for anybody. But then also, we should also point at certain artists who use the N-word. Black artists who use the N-word, Black artists who degrade women in a particular way. Like, I really think it brings to question, well, it's the great debate. Should we keep using this word? Why are we using this word? What's the point in using it? So do I use it in my everyday discussion? No. I mean, and you're the opposite. But that's the whole thing. And then the white people that I know that are around me don't use it. But we also know that, there's context. Like, that's the important thing, is context, right? Now, and I can keep going on and on, but my thing, like, honestly, because when I see, like we can fall into these tropes of, oh, I know Joe Rogan, he's a good guy. That's me trying to defend my massa. You know what I mean? Like that that would be that, right? So, my whole point of view is, this is divide and conquer. I think that he should, he has apologized, but, I actually had this discussion, with my son, where I actually played, his apology recording, on Instagram. And then, him and his mom and we talked about it. Now, to further give you context, like, my son is biracial. I am identifying him as Black, not just a person of color or whatever, because I know once he's out in these streets and they see that he's my son, they will know that he's Black. Like, they will see him as Black. He's not the quintessential biracial kid. He's got like straight hair, brown skin. He could be anybody, right? But the whole thing is, like,
he's an anomaly.
Pretty much. So we played it for him, and
which is good. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. And his words, and he's 12 years old, he was like, I believe what he said is sincere. But saying I'm sorry won't be enough. He has to make amends. And so what does that mean? And this is coming from a 12-year-old.
That's the question, man.
Yeah.
Like you already kind of pointed out. Yeah, I use the word. And right or wrong, I use it. So I just go ahead and get that out the way. And I'm always torn, because I like to think deep about subjects. I'm a very analytical thinker. I like to think deep about subjects. I love to have deep discussions about different topics. And I always get into this point when we come to anything that can be racial or divisive, if you I don't want to say defend, I think defend is too strong of a word, but if you put stuff in context and then begin to discuss, like you were saying about, you know, why he said it and stuff like that, and are we in that role of letting people go? You know what I mean? Yeah. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times we hold hands and say we should overcome, and then the person who had committed offense don't understand what they have done, because we are so quick to kumbaya, and then down the road it's get done again, or someone else will do that same offense. And at the same time, you know, like you had mentioned about giving power to the word, you know, should we even give power to that word? And, you know, even open up that discussion about stop using the word. You know, I'm quick to admit that, you know, I should just stop using the word. But, you know, I'm around people that use it. That's no excuse. I'm just saying I'm around people that use it. And so and I use it too. So it's kind of like, it's almost like when you trying to stop drinking or stop doing something, you around people that's doing it, it's hard to stop doing it and drinking and eating or whatever it is, because it's all around you, you know. And like you know what I'm saying, so it's kind of like I go through those things all the time. They're always in my mind, you know, because my biggest goal is to see us move forward, is to see us progress. And if that means making those changes, then we have to make those changes.
No, I totally agree. I think we shouldn't really get it twisted in the fact that I joke around, like my upbringing is like, you know, I'm bougie as shit. My father is a retired, you know, deputy. My brother was in the military. Well, he's still in the military and all that stuff. I'm the only freak child that decided to become an artist. And my sister practices African hoodoo religion.
Oh, really?
So it's a whole
mixed bag.
It's a whole mixed bag. But when I came into the world, you know, I was basically like,
when you finish, I'm gonna read Lamar's comment. Go ahead.
I was like, hey guys, how's it going? Blah blah blah. You know, I speak so well. You know, so me saying the word, you just shouldn't hear it. But whatever. But I really don't think it's about. I think it's more about how Black people are going to evolve more, like our evolution as a race, as a culture, and then also how are we actually going to deal with this thing called systematic, you know, like racism. Like it's a catchphrase. It's a not trigger, but it's a word that's being, you know, thrown around. But I don't think we're really doing anything about it other than saying we here at blah 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 really embrace diversity and all that other stuff. But we're not really going to come to grips with what systemic racism has done to you, the African here in America. And we're not going to give you any money. We're not going to make things equal. We're just going to say, oh, we're sorry. My bad. Yeah. Yeah.
Lamar, let me see. Lamar says, this is a subject that is almost like having the MJ LeBron GOAT debate. It's subjective. Yeah. Different people are affected by the word, and I will have different emotions triggered by the word.
Yep.
And you know what, man? It's like, I hate to say it. You know, I grew up around street. If I say street people, it just don't sound the same emphasis. If I say I grew up around street niggas. You know, it's just a whole different thing. You know, it's like, so, I mean, it's a thing in my mind. I understand that. But if I say, I grew up around street people, but if I say I grew up around street niggas, you have a different image in your head when I say that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of like, I understand not using it, but it's become sometimes it's a good adjective. It's like saying fuck sometimes. Sometimes, you know, it's a good adjective.
No, sometimes it is. I mean, Like let's run down the list. Dave Chappelle, it falls trippingly off the tongue, and you laugh at it. You know what he's saying. Quentin Tarantino, the great debate on how he writes. Like I'm like, okay, listen, you got Sam Jackson, you've got Jamie Foxx, and you've got all other black actors with whom have been in his movies and have used that word. And every time, like, I'll be the first to say, it's like, as soon as, another trailer Quentin Tarantino movie, cool, I'm there. Right. So as far as like an artist, white, black, or whatever, using that word, again, it's context. And so when are we going to disassociate ourselves from this word? Okay. As well as being able to use it because we're either using it in a historical sense or whether we're using it to describe someone because, nigger is nigger. Yeah, that word is an adjective. It's I don't know. Can you use it as a verb? I don't know.
It's a verb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, yes. Niggas will nig.
Yeah. Right. But again, like we're giving power to the word. We're giving power to that word, but we're not asking the question of why it's been used, how it's been used, and also the history of the word. And I keep going back to this one woman who wrote the book Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Her name is Dr. Joy DeGruy. And I've said it on your show many a times, but every time some shit like this comes up, I'm always like, number one, when I'm watching the Joe Rogan Experience, and I keep hearing when I hear him say some really uninformed shit, I'm just like, please have this woman on your show. It will change your whole outlook. Right. Because honestly, I really think, and let's just call it like it is. When he was referring to the whole Planet of the Apes thing, which he did go back and say, wow, that was really stupid. I shouldn't have said that. Right. Like, okay, that's real. And when you hear him say that and you hear him acknowledge the fact that what he said was stupid and shouldn't have been said, I'm ready to drop it and let's keep going. Because that one particular moment shouldn't distract all the positive, that he has done and what he's doing now. So, having someone like Dr. Joy DeGruy on your show, hell, I'd love to have her on my show.
Yeah, me too.
To talk about this, and really discover how deep this rabbit hole goes. Like, honestly, like if we really get into it, she has talked about race as a marketing tool. Dr. Jane Elliott. Have you've heard of her?
I heard
right?
Yes. I've seen her stuff. I mean, you go far back as Dr. Frances Cress Well. Yeah. You go far back as that. When she was doing this in the 90s, in the 80s, and she was on the field down and she was showing shows like that, and she was talking about, the whole idea of fear of annihilation, but she even broke down us using the N-word and us, and the history behind it. She went deep into it. So it has a deep history of people discussing it. But here we are, we still are discussing it.
We're still discussing it. But we're discussing it as a tool of destruction. And we're not going deeper as to how it has become a word of destruction. Because all we're hearing is sorry. We're not hearing how can we make amends.
You know what, Jeff? Yeah. Two things. One, it reminds me, I was listening to Corey Holcomb defending Pierre and Capone on Comedy Height. They had a little discussion about, Corey Holcomb talking about the platform. But Craig is on his show. He made a point about comedians, and he said that, people who have platforms, that comedic platforms, who are not comedians, like Comedy Height, the guy who started is not a comedian. They always are trying to censor art. He said true comedians, don't care nothing about all the time what offends. It's more about putting the art out there.
Exactly.
And, so, and then that goes back to what you said earlier about Quentin Tarantino and all that. Do we need to kind of make that distinction between what's art and what people are saying in the everyday vernacular?
Yep.
Because I mean, here's the thing. I brought this subject up to somebody, to a Christian person. A lot of times you watch these movies made by Christians, they real cheesy and unbelievable because they won't curse, they won't show certain things, but that's not what life is.
Right.
If you're looking at true art, okay, and it's not me saying anything about either side, you can still show the person being what you have a vision of what the Bible says a person should be, and then on the other side, show what the people in the real world actually are. There are people in the real world cussing. There are people out in the real world having, premarital sex, fornicating, whatever, all that stuff that you talk about is in the world.
Yeah.
But it's art.
Right.
It doesn't take away from your message because you're showing art, and who you are separated from your art. I'm on this platform. This is my art. So a lot of times, 90% of it is me, but there's other 10% that I interject in there to make the show go on. And, I say stuff that's outrageous sometimes, but, it's part of the show.
Yeah.
It's art. It's part of the art. And whatever it takes to push the art out there. It's not to say that I'm being a different person, because you see me in the store, I'm still going to talk like this. But,
Yeah.
But I'm just saying my bigger point is that, it's all about the platform pushing your art. And we need to separate that art from who that person is.
Right.
And if I don't know Joe Rogan personally, but but if he's outside who is doing stuff that is positive and doing things that are positive, and he's using it in the context of, I think, let me say this and then I go back to what I was going to say. There's a difference between what is right morally, and what someone does. So if, for instance, we can go into discussion about him not saying the word, but in his context, he was saying that he was quoting Lenny Bruce, he was quoting Richard Pryor,
Red Fox,
saying all those different and saying the joke. And so instead of saying, Red Fox said that N word come over here, he just said the word. Now, That's a separate discussion from whether or not he said, but the main point is he wasn't being malicious, and that even goes into the Whoopi Goldberg thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and she's like, let's talk about her boyfriend at the time. What was it? Like
Ted
the guy
Danson?
from Cheer. Yeah, Ted Danson.
Yeah, one dressed up like a slave or something, and other slave owner?
No.
How was it?
From what I remember, he was in blackface.
Blackface, that's what it was.
They were talking at some dinner or whatever, and she had actually. Now, I don't know the full context, but what I do know is that she actually co-wrote some of the things that he actually said up there. And so I guess it was just a means of really pushing boundaries. And because we don't really know the context of what's really happening, we see Ted Danson up there in blackface. We want to punch him in his face. Right. And at the same time, I'm a huge fan of the show The Good Place, where you said it. So, I mean, yeah. And so this country really does a really good job at pinning one against the other. Right. This country does a really, really good job at doing that, because once we know who the real key players are in all this, and we all look at them, the whole deep state or
whatever you want to call them, right?
Then there's going to be a real problem. So, but I definitely see where you're coming from.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's more of the main subject to discuss, because once again, I use the word, but however, I'm fully aware of the history behind it. I'm fully aware of when and when not to use it. And I know if you're using something maliciously, I respond to it when you use it maliciously that way. Right. So I have friends as all nationalities, you know, and if one of my friends was saying, like, say, let's take the Joe Rogan incident, he was telling me something about a movie he seen, and said that he quoted the line used the N-word in it, and he quoted that word. Now, I'm not going to jump all over him. I may correct him and say, man, maybe that's something you shouldn't say, or, you know, even though I know you didn't mean it that way, and I'm going to correct him. Right. I'm not going to jump all over him because I understand where he's coming from.
Right.
And that's more, I think that's more of a bigger discussion, because like you said, if we jump all over Joe Rogan and then take our eyes off the bigger thing of what they're actually trying to do, you know what I'm saying, we're missing the point. Now, it's not to say if someone's using it maliciously, we shouldn't go after them either. Right. Now, don't get that misconstrued. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we need to be smart enough to be able to differentiate what's going on and take it case by case basis. Yep. And not put a blanket on everything.
Yep. And, you know, one of the things that we were discussing, you know, at our breakfast table is basically, well, what, other than making amends, like, could someone who had said something as horrible, you know, like making a statement as horrible as that, but then going back and retracting that statement, you know, why don't we just call it what it is? Let's say, hey, I am able to progress because of racism, of institutional racism. Not just say, you know what, I'm a racist and I should be flogged, but you know, the way that I have come into this world as a white male with a shit ton of privilege, let me just address that and say, yes, I have done that. Yes. Yes, this is true. Yes, I am able to be X, Y, and Z because I look like this. Right. So the main question is, and it shouldn't be a matter of, oh, let's give all his $100 million away. Let's say, hey, what can I do to address this? Yes, I am benefiting from racism. What can I do? Right. What can I do on my platform to address this issue? Not to, I mean, anyway, so it's more of a, yes, I admit this. Let's come to grips with this. And what can I do in the future? Like, you know, and that's really the big thing. And then also, you know, the more I keep going into, you know, what's happening right now, you know, yeah, we can always talk about, yeah, this is totally about freedom of speech. And how freedom of speech kind of bit him in the ass. You can say whatever the fuck you want to say. You know, but you better be able to face the consequences.
That's
you
correct.
know, once you see 12 years of stupid, fucked up shit that you say, put, you know, and, you know, honestly, for all the good that a person has done, like if someone went by and was able to record every little thing that you did that you fucked up on, yeah. I mean, God knows, I've done a lot of stupid shit.
I've done a lot of stupid stuff.
Right. And you don't want to see, I mean, no person really wants to see all that stuff.
Especially in the name of a joke. You know, it comes to the joke. Well, I've said some crazy stuff. I was like, after I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Ooh. You know, I went a little too far with that one. And you know what I'm saying? And none of it's done maliciously, but sometimes you in that moment. So that's why I do understand, because I'm not a professional comedian, don't get me wrong, but I come from a background where we used to sit on the porch and just dog each other, you know, and go in. So that's what I'm used to. And nothing was off limits. If your mama had one leg, we was talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Nothing was off limits.
And there's someone like me, really, like, I understand that, right? And
you know what I'm saying?
And that's that kind of code switching that we do. Yeah.
So we understand, you know, nothing was off limits. And after we got through, we was all cool.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm used to that. That's where I came from. So and it's not to say that it can't still get out of hand, because sometimes it can. Sometimes you be like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. You know, I've done it on some of my shows. You know, I said some stuff. You know, I make the little comments about women and stuff like that. And I know if if the women, some women get out to the right the right group hears it, he's misogynistic and this and that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not the case, but if you just hear it in a soundbite, you know.
Right. If you hear all that stuff like strung together,
right,
and packaged in a way of, oh, Jamel, he's a misogynist. He treats women horribly.
Right.
Listen to all of these clips that we've edited and put together so you can hear bitch, ho, bitch, ho, bitch, ho, like strung together.
You got about big booty, bitch, ho.
Oh, big booty, bitch,
Don't forget that.
Right. Big booty, ass and titties.
Right, there you go. There you go. That's more like me. So. Now you got me. So.
Good.
You know, but you're right. Yeah. You're right, man. Yeah. You're right. And it's one of those things that taken out of context or in sound bites, you know, it sounds horrible. And I always say this, especially when dealing with like LGBTQ A+ issues, I'm ignorant of it. I'm not part of the community, so I'm ignorant of it. So I do say, you know, I'm speaking out of ignorance, and I understand that. And I am one who don't mind being educated. If I'm saying something that is offensive, because a lot of times, you know, I'm only in my own bubble, my own environment, and what I'm used to. So a lot of things I may say, like it took me a while to understand that I didn't know it took a friend of mine who was Asian to tell me that Oriental was a bad word. Was not something I should use.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I grew up, that's what I heard.
Yep.
You know, and I didn't know it to be offensive. So her and I was talking one day, and I said, you know, Oriental people. She said, "Oh, don't say that."
Yeah. You know no, but isn't that cool how that whole scenario flipped where like if you had to educate someone if they were saying something offensive towards you, how it feels the other way around. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
No, you good.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I felt bad because I like that was not my intention. Yeah. Now you take that in context. If I was somewhere in a public area and said it, and then somebody took it, I'm a bad guy all of a sudden. Yeah, and that's not the case. I just
Jamel, you're done. Your show is done. You're done. You're not going to get any work. I mean, yeah, like.
And I was just ignorant.
Yep.
Same with Whoopi Goldberg. She was just ignorant in some things what she said.
Yep.
You know.
Right, and at the same time, we can't talk about these. Oh well, what if we put it in this context? What if? Let's talk about the Jewish community. Let's talk about what happened during the Holocaust. What is the point of view between, you know, what happened and, you know, all the things that happened in Nazi Germany, like all the horrible, cruel, the ethnic cleansing that was happening, you know, the gold taking out of some people's teeth. Yes. You know, I mean, my God, you know, the atrocities, which was not in question. It was a matter of perspective. Why can't we talk about that perspective? Why can't we chop that up? Right. Same thing with what's going on with you know, now that we've moved on from Dave Chappelle, right? And I've seen that special like 3 times because I'm seriously like, well, where is the hate?
Right.
Like every time I've seen it, all I'm looking at is a man who missed his friend. There was, and the sad thing is that you see people who are trying to make their way in a political profession. Actually, there's a guy who's like trying to run for Congress, trying to take Nancy Pelosi's seat here. In San Francisco. I live in El Cerrito, but still pretty much the same thing for whatever. But in regards to the rest of the country. But anyway, I'm hearing him talk about the wonderful questions that Dave Chappelle has brought up, but I must still condemn you for the things that you said. Well, you've seen the special, or maybe you're not, but I'm actually going to assume that you've actually seen it. Okay, yeah, right. You know, no, not you, but actually the guy who was actually about to say, oh, but I'm going to condemn the horrible things that Dave Chappelle has said you know, about the trans community, the LGBTQ community,
right?
What have you. And I'm like, dude, you're playing for another crowd so that you can get votes. Like anybody, and I was actually pretty upset, and I wanted to chime in on the IG, on the Instagram, you know, but I've become so turned off by social media that I rarely, if hardly, go on Facebook. Maybe Twitter every now and again. Instagram is pretty much like my only, you know, dessert, you know, guilty pleasure that I have, and I'm so close to wanting to just delete that off of my phone, you know, just the same. But you know, yeah. So, but after hearing him wanting to have his cake and eat it too, by way of bringing to light some of the things that he said that is true, but I must condemn you for the things that you said. I was like, he didn't say anything wrong, right? And I think any person who actually saw that would agree. So what are we doing here? What is actually like the formula of cancel culture? Like the answer isn't positive. Like the outcome is never going to be positive because we've marketed in a particular way that these people aren't either, like the people aren't going to learn anything from it. And then also, there isn't going to be a resolution, and there isn't going to be any change, because if there was change, then we wouldn't keep having a new person having drug up something from their past to have been said, because the formula is to divide and conquer. The formula is to have us all pinned against each other and talking shit about each other instead of looking at the real issue and the real key power players or what have you. Like, honestly, in my opinion, that's the real issue, and that's what's happening with something like the JRE. It's bigger than the actual person itself. This is going against, like, this is a key battleground in freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and then also freedom of information. Perfect example, you know, is the fact that there was a guest on his show, because I'm such an avid listener, like because one of the guests on his show, I think he's a computer science person or whatever, but he was actually talking about how Google, the search engine, the people who actually work for Google was actually able to shut down the internet, not being able to do searches, not a couple of websites, the motherfucking internet. And they did it for 40 minutes. They did it on a Saturday, because if they did it on a weekday, they fuck up trades and money and stocks and all that stuff. And it wouldn't have been as bad if they did it on a weekend as opposed to on a weekday. But, you know, and we all use Google. Like, even if we try to not, I don't use the search engine. I use DuckDuckGo. I use Brave as a browser. I try not to go deep down this rabbit hole, because then I'd be wearing tinfoil hats and not leaving my house. You know, I look up at the sky, you see chemtrails, and I mean, you just, you know, I'm gonna just dig a hole, and you know, let me know when all this is over. You know, so, but knowing all of this, like this is deeper than what he said in the past. This is actually, I truly believe, a key battleground for freedom of speech. It's a key thing, but I don't think it is the main one.
Okay.
Right.
That's an interesting point you bring up there, because well, I want to go back. I'm coming back to that. I want to talk about Flame Moreau. And you Flame Moreau as, you know, Flame Moreau is, right? The comedian.
No, go. I don't know.
Okay, no. Flame Moreau is a comedian, but transgender comedian.
Okay. Oh, I've heard of him. Right? I've heard of her. Yeah.
So, you know, she does a lot of jokes about she does a lot of transgender jokes. A lot. You know, and she switches back and forth when she's on stage. She, you know, she's in her, I don't want to use the word character, but because he switches, it's kind of like she talks like a woman most of the time. Then she'll go into the deep voice, to get the joke across. It's funny. Don't get me wrong. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's okay for her to do it because she's transgender. Then if someone else says something about that, then they're wrong. Same comparison to the N-word. If we said it's okay, someone else said, then we're wrong. We're jumping all over it. But in that case, though, I think with Flame Monroe is that's art.
Right.
So while she's doing it, even though she sometimes switching to the deep voice, it gets the joke across. It's funny. It's art. So if someone's using that word, the N-word, in art, why should we? I said that here's why I always, because I know I sound like I'm tripping up, because it's like I'm always conscious of not letting someone be able to use this as, well, I apologize, we're good, because it's art, and they become a repeat offender of it, and they know they're doing it because they're using this as an excuse because now we gave them this out.
Yeah.
And
I know exactly where you're coming from.
That's kind of like my hesitation on it, because I understand that if you're looking from a philosophical standpoint, you're looking from a type of ideology that we have about the word, about art being art, and that I understand all that. So it's not like I lack that understanding.
Right.
However, having known this and then experiencing the world, it gives me that pause, because like, okay, now we engage somebody out and they're gonna be nicking everything.
Right. They're just throwing in everything. It's art.
You know what I'm saying? It's art. So
yeah.
That I guess that's my biggest thing about that.
You know what? I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
And say that I don't think we have to worry about that. Like, you're going to have idiots that are going to use that as a loophole, but it will be rectified. It'll balance out. Like, I think that someone would try and do it, but they're going to get smacked down because it's not going to come off as genuine. And it may not be rectified by action or something physical happening to him or her or whatever, but I think it'll hit the pocketbook, and then once that happens, then there'll be a course correction. We'll see. I think it'll self-regulate. Like, trust me, like if Quentin Tarantino was writing in the context of I can say whatever I want because I'm an artist, I think we'd have a different outcome. Yeah, especially like that scene in Django where where Sam Jackson is first introduced to to Jamie Foxx's character.
What's that nigga do my leg?
Yeah.
It's funny though. I'm sorry. It's funny. It's hilarious. Like, okay. And so it's not offensive.
No.
Because I put myself, like, when I see stuff like that, I put myself in that moment. So it's kind of like, that's why it becomes funny. Now, I do have a warped sense of humor. I understand that. My sense of humor is not like, maybe not like the average sense of humor. So I understand that too. But at the same time, when I'm watching a piece of art, reading some art, whatever, experiencing it, I put myself into it. That's the only way I can kind of enjoy it, Yeah. So it's like, okay, if I'm in that situation, okay, that's funny, And I think even when I listen to a comedian tell a joke, I kind of imagine what they're saying, and I'm going along with what they're saying, and then when they get to the punchline, I'm like, that's funny, I kind of followed all the way through the end. And I think with those kind of things, I don't take offense to it. But I will say I did not like Carlos Mencia.
I haven't seen his latest stand-up.
No, I'm just talking about back then.
Oh yeah. I don't think anybody really dug
I
what
think
he
he
had to
was
say.
like, it seems like, you know, we talk about art. It just seemed like he was offensive to me. You know, it just didn't seem like I'm telling this joke. It's like, okay, I'm a comedian, so I'm gonna go ahead and say this, and I should be shielded because I'm using art.
Right.
That's kind. It didn't seem genuine, like he was talking about earlier to me when I watched Carlos Mencia.
Right.
And that's why I did not care for Carlos Mencia. And then when Joe Rogan pointed out that he was stealing jokes, I was like, good. I really don't. You know what I'm saying?
I knew why I didn't like this motherfucker. Yeah. There's a reason why. Yeah, no, exactly. And that boils down to being genuine, right? That plain and simple. Self-regulation. Like it's gonna self-regulate. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But what let me ask you this. What do you think can be done now? Because I think that, you know, as the recording has said, you know, he is looking at this as a teachable moment. What do you think, if you were his producer, like what do you think he should do on his show as a means of making amends or as a means of going forward in society?
We're going forward, you know. I think he should have a conversation with people like us. Hey, what's up, Ken? Ken Stones, Kofi Weeson from the Dirty Hills podcast. What's going on with you, man? I think he should have a conversation with people like us, like this conversation we're having now, and be able to hear a discussion like this so he can see what common people think about that. Because when you are in a position, I guess lack of better words, power position where you in a different social economic status, your understanding of the world is different. And when you can go certain places and no matter how crowded it is, you got a seat. When you go certain places and you know you don't have to worry about the price of something is, it's a different kind of mindset.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you earned that, for some reason I was thinking about this today. If you earned that, I don't have a problem with that. You know, but I think a good thing is to connect back with people who are still grounded to this part of the world.
Yeah.
And so then when things like this come up, you understand, although I know I'm doing art, this may be offensive in this particular setting. So I'm just gonna say the N-word.
Right.
You know, because he's not doing a movie.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So he's not doing a play. He's not writing a book. And those things, you say, okay, Tennessee Williams, some of his books, Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain, some of his books had nigger in it.
Yep.
It was the context of the time that they lived in.
Yep.
You know,
and we should discuss that. And that's what everybody's trying to erase. And instead of erasing it, we have to embrace it and say, this is what we did. How do we not do this again? And how do we make amends? Right. And that's the key thing. That's the key thing.
And I think, and look at it like this. If you read Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, The Glass Magenta, I think that's what it's called, Tennessee Williams book.
Oh, Menagerie.
Menagerie. Thank you. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, Glass Menagerie. I'm like, it was something. I've read it so long ago. If you read those books or the play, and you know, and it said such and such N-word, it takes away the power of the whole writing.
Right.
It just does. I'm sorry, it does. You know, to try to censor that, it takes away, because you need to know that there was a time in this world where you can say nigga and pass me the salt in the same context. And you know what I'm saying? It didn't mean nothing. It was like, all right. You know, you can be at the restaurant, move nigga, you know, and go on in. And that was no big deal. Where, you know, now it's like, he was like, oh, wait, you ain't supposed to say that out loud. You know what I'm saying? You can think it, but you ain't supposed to say it out loud. Yeah. You know, it's a whole, so like to know that happened and you and your child reads that now, here's a discussion, like you said earlier with your child.
Yep.
Here's a teachable moment to sit down and say, hey, this is the time, this is how the times were. This is how things were then. We move past that in some ways, you know, and here's where we need to go from there.
Yeah.
So it's teachable moments. Same with I'll bring this up. That's the same thing with teaching critical race theory.
Mm.
Who was I was listening to somebody, and they kept calling. Oh, there it was. They were calling Melo a boy at a Philadelphia game.
Okay.
Right, and they got kicked out of the game, and the kind of thing was kind of, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember exactly what it said, but basically, oh, I didn't know that was offensive, or I didn't mean it in an offensive way, or something to that degree. My thing, but if you was educated on it,
yeah.
First of all, it eliminates the excuse.
Yep.
Because if we taught this in public schools, that you've been to public schools, you've been taught that, so that eliminates that excuse. Second of all, you at least been educated to know that's an offensive thing when you talk to a black person like that, because it conjures up a whole different feeling when you talk to somebody else like that, and you know not to say it. So that's part of what critical race theory does.
Right.
But because it has been used as a tool, to strike fear, the people who don't really knows what it's about. Well, we shouldn't. Yeah, they're right. You shouldn't teach that. It's divisive. It's teaching hate.
Right.
It's not what it's about.
Right.
How am I teaching hate? I'm teaching history.
Right. And again, like we're looking at the word critical race theory, just like we're looking at Black Lives Matter, and we're not talking about why those set of words have been put together. Mm-hmm. Like we're talking about that and what it instills in white folks. No, the white political structure or the white power structure.
Right.
As opposed to, we're looking at we're looking at those set of words and how it is wreaking havoc in the white political structure.
Right. But going back to the Joe Rogan thing, and what could be done. That's one part of it. I think education is a big part of it, but educated from a standpoint of knowing what everyday people who experience this is what they feel, this is what they know, this is how a word is affected. Second of all, on our side, is having that discussion of stop using it so much so that people feel comfortable using it. You turn on every rap song, nigga. You watch certain comedians, nigga, and I go back. I use the word, so it's not that I'm trying to be a hypocrite, but it's just me trying to bring understanding and admitting my faults and using it. But at the same time, understanding that some change needs to happen. I got a friend at work. Me and him are real tight. We laugh and joke all day, and he doesn't use the word. Don't get me wrong, but. One of my other friends might walk over that happen to be black. I'm saying, nigga, what's up? And he's standing right there.
Yeah.
He knows not to use it. He be like, I never, he's like, I'm not going to use it. And I say, I understand that and it's cool, but I'm so conscious of, like you said, that code switching that it's like, oh, a man up, hey, what's up? What's good? What's up? Then I'm in the other part of the corporate environment. Oh, how's it going, Johnny?
No, exactly.
Good morning.
Yeah. Daryl, how are you today? How are you,
Daryl? Now, honestly, I will say, I don't change that much. I just don't use certain words.
Right.
Now, I do be like, hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? I was gonna say what? I gonna say what up, nigga? Or what's good? Yeah. I might say what's up, or hi, hey, how you doing? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But my bigger point is that he's around, he's still around, and I'm using that word.
I totally understand where you're coming from with that, and I think that's the beauty of being who we are as Black people. And then the more I use words like black, or as we're discussing the use of the N-word, I keep thinking about the marketing ploy that was so successful, and it is marketing, right? Because one of the things that Dr. Joy Degree talks about is how nigger came to be, and the strategy of producing free labor, right? Check this out, and this will lead into what I think Joe should do.
Okay.
All right. So in the beginning, when white folks in Europe were taking black folk from the continent, the sailors, because they were seeing all the fucked up shit that they had to do to get someone to take someone from point A to point B, you know, like our African brothers and sisters threw themselves off the boats, right? They were just seeing some of the horrible things that were being done in order to break down a human spirit. You know what I mean? The sailors were so taken back and were traumatized as to what they had to do. They wouldn't take jobs. They wouldn't take those kinds of jobs. Right? Now, this shows you what humanity is really about. Like, this shows you the good in being a human being when you can see empathy being pointed towards an African, right? During the day. So because there is a dip in productivity, right?
Right.
Because there's a dip in productivity and bringing and taking a person from point A to point B, there was a marketing strategy that was made to make the African not human. Right?
I think I heard this before.
Yeah. They are 3/5 of a human being. They're not really human.
Right.
They're almost human. You can still rape them. You can still sodomize them.
Right.
You can still, right?
Yeah, buck breaking,
all that stuff. But you can, but they're not human.
Right.
And let me show you what they really are, right? Nigger. And so I think that's one of the ways that word was formed.
Right.
And so therefore, when you're able to create an image of a person from Africa not being human, making them monsters, the dark continent, right? Right. Then they didn't see them as human beings. They saw them as animals. And that is why they were able to ramp up production and take a person from point A to point B, right?
Right.
And make them work for free. And the reason why you and I are standing here right now is because of the fortitude of our ancestors who actually either couldn't or decided not to jump off of a boat, you know, to where we are now.
And that's also part of, Birth of the Nation was the same thing.
Yep.
You know, after we were emancipated and they saw that they were losing their labor, I started this campaign. Propaganda. Say do Birth of a Nation. And the same thing that you spoke of about earlier about the transatlantic slave trade and how they had to do to get these sellers to take their job. They use the exact same ploy.
Yep.
And then now that's how you start getting the slave catchers and all this other stuff, you know, into play. And the birth of the Ku Klux Klan and all that started right then and there because of that. And it's interesting how history keep repeating itself.
Yeah.
You know, Nixon.
Yep.
You know, war on crime, war on drugs.
Yep.
War on crime is his.
Yeah.
Reagan's war on drugs.
Right.
But
and no, go ahead.
No, they're kind of tied in together. Then you got the crime bill with Clinton.
Yep.
You know,
pushed forward by Biden.
Pushed forward by Biden, right? Yep. Calling them super predators.
Hillary
Clinton. All these were just little things that point back to that same history. And this, this all how this ties together. This goes to kind of what I was trying to bring out when we was talking about the Brian Flores thing. Directly, you can't. If you lay all the evidence out in front of you, you can't directly point and say it's racist because I can't really tell that's racist. But it has that same thing about calling those kids that you saw on TV super predators directly, and without the context, you can't say it's prejudice or it's racist. You're like, well, look at them. Look at the people they're showing. They're using crack and they're killing each other with this over this crack cocaine, and they're doing all these crimes, and look how they shooting each other and killing each other. They super predators, and you buy into that rhetoric. Not only white people bought into that rhetoric, all the black people bought into it too.
Yeah.
And they got scared of their neighborhoods.
Yep.
But it's the same thing with the blind forest things. Yeah, we can't point to it because they just dog whistles. Yeah, that's all they are. And the little things we just can't really point out specifically and say. But if you watch history, it's the same thing. It just keeps repeating itself until we decide to change.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And when you're saying all of that, as far as like history repeating itself, I keep going back to, because I'm such a nerd, I keep going back to the makings. Like, this is deja vu.
Yeah.
Deja vu. Black Cat. Yeah, Black Cat. I've seen this before. Right. I've seen this play out before. So what do we do? What do we do to get out of this line of this way of thinking? Like, we literally have to rewire our brains.
Right. Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that.
We have to rewire it. Rewire it. I don't know why I can't say that, but
it happens.
Yeah. But one of the things that I know I'd like to see what the show do, the JRE, Joe Rogan Experience do, is actually, let's bring some of your homies back, right? Bring back Dr. Cornel West that you interviewed. Bring back Killer Mike that you've interviewed.
Right.
Get with them. Talk to the people that knows you, and let's walk through this. And then also let's get into this uncomfortable discussion of what you said, why you said it. Maybe, of course it wasn't a means of really degrading people, but let's talk about the conditioning. Right. That has happened to you. That has happened to me. That has happened to you as well, Jamel. And let's walk through this line of, why is it that I felt compelled to say these things? Maybe deep down, I did think I was better. I don't feel like this now. I have children. I have a legacy to uphold. So how can I evolve? Right. So So bring someone like them back to talk about, what you did. And then, get into it with Dr. Joy DeGruy. Get into it with someone that will, in lack of a better way of saying it, put you in your place. I like, the story of how Bobby Kennedy had Lorraine Hansberry, I want to say Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, the motherfucking G, up in the place. And I think Bobby Kennedy was about to start, talking and start saying, oh, yes, well, we're going to do this, that, and the other. All those artists said, shut the fuck up and listen to us. You need to listen to us. And that's what needs to happen. I think that as much as I am a proponent of wanting to listen to other points of views and listen to other people that I may not necessarily agree with, I think that this is a real moment to flex to the establishment that I'm here to stay. And I think he'll have more allies, black, white, and whatever. And actually, I think that'll happen. I think that'll be a good thing, especially if you bring the reason why I'm like, bring Dr. Joy DeGruy on your show is because once I've seen her talk, I haven't bought her book yet, but once I've seen her talk in a workshop, that I saw like a couple of years ago, like this is transformative. And she will give no fucks. Like, and that's the beauty, and that's what he needs. He needs someone that's not going to give a fuck about him. Right. And so that's what I feel I would like to see happen, to further evolve for himself as a human being, but then also for his country, that he loves.
Right. It's interesting. Yeah. You had said something that kind of sparked something, because you said that, and I have to paraphrase it because, as you get older, your memory is not as good as it used to be. But, you said something along the facts that, subconsciously, or maybe he didn't he may feel like he might was better at that time and not really realize that's how he was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole idea of systemicism,
Yep.
you know, because when you are in a system, the system just flows naturally, and you just get right on that boat of the
Yep.
system and flows right down that river, and don't even realize where you're going because the boat is just flowing.
Yeah.
It's a constant flow. And that's
Yeah.
kind of is when you in that system. We all in this system, you know. And as we going down this river, yeah, different things are happening around us. You may notice the bird flying over your head. I'm over here. I'm looking to the left, and I notice, maybe something else in the tree, and or I notice, somebody else may know something else. But we all on the same boat, same system, and
Mm-hmm.
we noticing different things and affected different ways.
Yep.
And it's not until sometimes somebody points it out, or you on the outside looking back in, you realize, oh wow. But that's but people don't realize that when you talk about systemic racism, people always point to, I never called you a nigga, or I never, but the system itself puts you in a way that you subconsciously think I am less than you,
Right.
because of what's being portrayed, what's being said all the time,
Right.
what's being given to you, the privilege that you have. All that is speaking to saying I am still 3/5 of a person.
Yep.
It's not directly saying it, but the system is slowly whispering in your ear, he's still a nigga.
Yeah.
He's only 3/5.
Mm.
He's less than you.
Mm.
You're better than that person. They're always on drugs. They're always doing this. And that's just steadily whispering that in your ear over and over again until you don't even hear the direct voice, because it's already planted. The seed is already planted.
Yeah. It's already there.
The tree is already bloomed. It has flowers, it's blossomed. And now it's just an automatic thing. So yeah, I don't go directly call you a negative term, but because subconsciously I think I'm better than you, I can say what I want. I can do what I want, and I don't mean it in a malice way. Yeah, because you're still part of that system. We all part of this system. So the solution is to attack the system, and those who may not be affected, quote unquote, a negative way, you become allies in this attack.
Right.
And because the 1% doesn't care about anybody. They don't. However, they prefer people that look like them over people that don't look like them. They had to make that choice.
Correct.
So two things that happen simultaneously. There is that need to get money and continue perpetuating this system of capitalism. And then there's the need to keep those who don't look like them less and under them. So if I can use a poor white person to put you down, I would do that because I care less about you than I do about that person. And that's the system.
Yep.
That's the system.
And not a lot of people know that. And we got to play the same game over and over and over again. And it is tiring and maddening. And it's like you're trying to yell at someone from across the Grand Canyon.
Right.
And and on the flip side, you made me remember some of the things that I'm having to rewire, right? As someone is whispering in the quintessential white person's ear, you're better than this person.
Right.
I gotta fight, like you and I. Well, I'll just speak for me. I gotta fight the urge to not, like, if I'm walking behind like a white person, particularly a white woman, and it's either like, it doesn't really matter during the day or at night or whatever. And I walk really aggressively. I walk fast. Like I do. So, I do this. Let's just call it straight up. I slow down. or I adjust my pace to where it's not as aggressive. Or if I know this person's walking too fucking slow, I just gotta walk by. I'm literally creating an arc so that she can see me in my peripheral vision, and I'm not just, like coming to, take her back. I still do that, and I'm a 50-year-old black man. Right. And so what does that say about me? What does that say about my existence and what I have to do to get by in the United States? Okay.
That system, buddy. That system.
It's that system. And so trying to break those particular things is going to be monumental. It may not. We are the first generation of breaking that system, right? We're a generation of having our parents not being affected by Jim Crow, right? Directly affected by Jim Crow. Like people my son's age are seeing this circus for what it is, a goddamn circus. Right. Yeah. So, I believe that the children that are coming from us are just, are looking at us and like, you guys are tripping. Like straight up. And they're, and they're doing their own thing. They're just as they are more readily acceptable of the different types of human beings that are coming into this world and how they're feeling, what they feel inside, You
know what's interesting? I'm gonna say this and we're gonna switch gears a little bit.
Cool.
But working where I work at, it helped me to break down some of those stereotypes. So where I work at is people from all over the world. All over the world. I mean, Asian, not just Asian, like from China, and I mean Indian people, Malaysian people. You got people from Turkey. We got people from Norway, Italy, South America. Matter of fact, it's this guy, black guy. He had a little accent, and he originally, he had, before he moved where I'm at now, he was in Jersey. So, but I kept hearing a little accent. Then, like one day we actually talked. He's from South America. He darker than I am. I mean, he's black. He considers himself black. He calls himself black. I'm saying. He's like, yeah, when I grew up, I was thinking, oh, Jersey? He's like, no, South America. I was like, is that further south than Jersey?
Oh, man. Like, so, huh?
Is that a city in Jersey? So, it's you get a chance. Oh, a couple people from Trinidad and Haiti. So I just got a chance just to meet people from different cultures, man. And it broke down a lot of stereotypes. And it also, I was able to understand certain customs, in certain cultures and why, people do some of the things they do culturally. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I understand. Okay. So it helped me, and I think that's the trick right there. If we keep dividing people, you won't be able to understand what the trick is, because you're constantly dividing.
Right. You got to see the world, or you have to be exposed to other people from parts of the world. Like the greatest thing that happened to Malcolm X was, making his Hajj, and it opened his eyes like tenfold. And if the black community was actually able to either meet more people from other parts of the world, or get to a position to where they can actually go to other parts of the world, well, two things I think will happen. One, they'll have a better perspective of their own place in society, because they'll see that they're not just this world is not about white folks. Like it's not. It's so many others.
It's so many of us. It's so many us all over the world.
Oh yeah. Especially when you said Trinidad Tobago, it's like I was there for a week. And it was my first time going to a place like Trinidad Tobago. My first time going to a country it was all black people, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is
Detroit."
Yeah, actually, I haven't been. I need to go to Detroit. I haven't been. Anyway, so I was like, this is like a perpetual black neighborhood. Like
Right.
I'm walking around, I'm just like it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah,
Greatest thing ever.
it is.
Yeah.
That's no interesting. Growing up in Detroit, I've mostly been around black people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we moved to the suburbs, so I mean, I experienced some white people, but even in school, I'm mostly around black people, and so my understanding was always from a black perspective. Totally, I mean, black. You know, there was no outside influences till I got older.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I understood, everything that I knew was just from that perspective. And I wanted to know and reach out to other cultures. I said, it's got to be more to the world. There's now, having said that, I enjoy my blackness, proud of my blackness. If I believe in reincarnation, I want to come back as a black man. I enjoy being black. So don't get me wrong when I say that. But I'll just say I still knew. I said I want to learn other cultures, and it was even though other cultures around us, because you know that's a highly like Dearborn is mostly all Arab.
Mm-hmm.
They got an Arab mayor. During Ramadan, they do the prayer over a loudspeaker in Arabic. Most of the stores are written in Arabic, so you in like a small Arab town when you go to Dearborn, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Oak Park and parts of northern part of Southfield, mostly Jewish people. So, and you go to those parts, there's a lot of Jewish stores. Stuff is written in Hebrew. There's a lot of synagogues all over. And on Saturdays, you see them just walking everywhere. But we never interact with each other. No, except for a few occasions, but you don't really interact with people. You know, you might go into the store, you might go into delicatessen and buy a sandwich, but you ain't interacting with.
Right.
So you don't really get to know that culture. You know, so I think that working experience other cultures also open my eyes to a lot of things. And I think that is the key. So we won't have these discussions, is that we open our eyes, and then when someone says something that's ignorant, you correct them on it and educate them.
Yep.
Just like I told you about the Oriental thing with me, she corrected me and educated me, and now I don't even use the term anymore. I say Asian.
Right.
You know, and it was nothing out of malice. That's what I knew.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
Right. And then think about how you thought it was okay to say that word. Like, where did you hear it from? Right. Like all this thing, it boils down to the white power structure. It does.
It is it.
It does. Like, and how it affects everybody. And once we all recognize that this is some bullshit, once we realize that systemic racism, yes, it's more than a belief. It can be proven that systemic racism is solely designed to destroy blackness, black economy, black, just being black in general and being being able to prosper in the world. Right. It's that is its sole purpose. Right. You can be kind of white, and when I say kind of white, have straight hair, right? Passing, like Asian, the Latin community, any other olive toned skin person. But if you kind of look white, you're okay. And I'm not saying, I'm saying that in the means of the power structure. But whenever it comes to blackness, no, you're not meant to prosper in this country. Why do you think you're able to have so many other different types of people immigrate here, but we're trying to kick the Haitian refugees out, right? Right, that are that are down in Texas. Granted, yes, there are still some of our Mexican friends who are stuck in those concentration camps. I mean, holding cells. I mean, like whatever in immigration. I mean, yeah, definitely. I'm not getting it. Well, I'm trying not to get it twisted, from that standpoint. But I am fully aware that is happening. But the thought that is coming through my head is, okay, white looking, you're able to pass, right? Right. But, oh, hell yeah. If you're like from any other European country, sure, come on in. But
Right.
you got your various degrees of filtering, as like trying to get into this country to create a better life for yourself.
Right.
And yeah, definitely.
Now I haven't said that. Switch gears.
Mm-hmm.
Third season of LJ Presents. What's going on? What's going on with that, man? We waiting, man. We waiting,
dude. So, and this is a trip because the way that this shook down was this: when I had recorded my sessions, I recorded pretty much like everything. You guys are like my season premiere, and I've talked to a wide variety of great people. I did 10 episodes. I wanted to do more, but basically what COVID happened. Not that I got it. Well, I did get it. It only lasted 2 days, but that was after I had this epiphany. But I was blessed to have done like some acting work, and I was also blessed to have a good friend from the UK get up with me and was like, "Hey, I want to do this show with you. We're going to do it through Zoom, and it's a web series, and you can find it's called Viral. Just do a Google search for El Jeffrey Moore, Viral, Amy C. Quick. That's my homie in the UK. Real good person. So we did those episodes. And so and this is not me blaming that time that I took to do that show. That's not at all. It's more encompassing than that. So as I was recording my podcast and banking those episodes, my whole thing of, hey, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to stress myself out. I don't want to tax my body. Right. So let me just focus on this because this is my homegirl. I want to do this show for her. I'm going to do this for her. And then I'll get my shit together.
Right. Right.
And then as I was doing that, I'm dealing with being unemployed again during COVID. I'm dealing with, I'm just dealing with being a human being on this planet, not being able to go out because of COVID. And I'm starting to see, I was actually starting to feel the ramifications of this horrible social experiment gone awry, right? So there were bouts of, and I would like to call myself a very positive person, friendly person. Good person, but I had bouts of depression, and that's just real. I was functioning. I was able to take care of my kid and be a good example for that. And and that's the thing, like you're having to expend your energy, and I was just seeing how it was really taking a toll on me. But so with that going on, it was, I got this show to edit. I can't do it today. I'm taxed out. I got to worry about how I'm going to take care of my responsibilities. Next day goes by. Okay. Then you actually get something, and then you're like, okay, well, I got to get up and go. I mean, just all the things. And in the back of my head, that's when I started thinking, dude, what's going on? And then that's when I had to start doing that self-reflection, right? And so, now, I'm proud to say that I have edited all 10 shows, and basically what I have to do now is put together my intro and outro. They're old, but they're going out, and the reason why they're going out is for a couple of things. Number one, I want to finish what I started, and that's the big thing, and that's the big thing that I teach my son. Finish what you started. Fall down. You fuck up, you fucked up. Get up. Right. So there's that, and then also,
what up, Dovin?
What up? and then also, I'd like for this to be a learning moment. Black people definitely, but particularly for Black men, we don't talk about our emotions.
Oh, that's deep, man.
And we don't, and we don't talk.
Right.
We're not being taught to talk.
That's true too.
Right. So it's not a bad thing to seek help. It is not a bad thing to go to a therapist.
Right.
It is not.
It's not weakness.
It's not weakness. As a matter of fact, it's strength in knowing that you have fallen down. You can get up. It's just like having a coach. Like, you know, I've never played sport. I've never played organized sports, but you know, for those that have, you know, sometimes you can have a coach that's going to like, get your ass up. Let's get to it. Let's get to work. What's going on? Right. So think about it that way. So, and during COVID, like, and the reason why I call this a great social experiment, we're seeing now how kids are being affected, right? And wherever you are on the is COVID a real thing or not, it's a real thing. And then it is also a political tool that has been used against everybody, whether you believe in vaccinations or not, whether you believe in other alternative forms of taking care of yourself.
Right.
I still won't say in public, well, in this platform, whether I am or am not vaccinated, because of how it has affected all of us. Truly. I mean, number one, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Number two, if you're not going to do it, what are you doing instead? Number three, if you have taken it, what else are you doing? Because we're finding that people are still getting sick after taking it. And it's more than just whether you have or have not taken it. It's about all of us having to believe what has been said to us. Right? And how we're realizing that it's not true. And the power structure, in lack of a better way of saying it, didn't take care of it, didn't take care of its citizens, because we were too busy focusing on the almighty dollar. And
that's it, man. That's it.
And that is basically
it right there. You know, you brought up a good point. It's kind of giving me confirmation, because I was talking about doing a one of our shows on mental health. So, you know, I call up one of our friends to the show, Allison Dorr, and I'm trying to find a psychiatrist to bring on, or psychologist, whichever one responds. And I'm trying to get a few other people, and plus my sister, because she can talk about it from a cannabis perspective, because she's a cannabis coach, and you know, she deals with cannabis and how cannabis helps medicinally. But I've been hearing a lot of people really talking about mental health. A lot of people, man, and how it's affecting them, and especially with COVID. I mean, the other day I was at work, a couple people had brought it up again, how, like, you know, how that mental health was affected with COVID, you know, because work was a distraction, you know, because you was just going to work, you know, coming home, same routine. Then when you had to stop and really start dealing with you, you realized you didn't like you. You didn't like what you was dealing with, or you didn't like what was around you, whatever the case may have been that you discovered about you. And then depression has set in, you know, because you had not figured out a way to get out of it, because you it's almost like you digging a hole and you constantly digging. You know, I helped dig a hole, help put a fence up for our church back home. And so you dig in that hole. When you first start, it seems like you ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just a little bit of dirt. Before you know it, you 8 feet down. You know, you drop the post in. And it's kind of the same thing, you know, when you in that rat race, you don't notice that you slowly digging this hole, and you just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until when the COVID hit, then you realize, because you stop digging, then you look up, you don't see the surface anymore. That's kind of how it was, you know. And you become depressed, or, you know, because you realize that I have not dealt with these things, because I've been on this, like they say, the rat race. I've been on this hamster wheel, going around and around and around. So yeah, man, that's big. And then the part you said about the piece about men, you know, we don't talk about it. We don't deal with it. We talk sports. Most times you see a man for the first time, you know, if you're in a certain city, you know, how about them Jets? How about them Lions? How about hey, speaking of my sister, what's up? What's up? My sister Tiffany Gocher, the health coach. She could tell you all about cannabis and everything. This she just got to doing a show on Clubhouse. That was phenomenal. That was great.
Yeah.
So I can't get the word out. That was great.
Yeah. The whole fibromyalgia. Now I can't.
No,
fibromyalgia.
The fibroid stuff.
Big words. No. No. I get it. Yeah.
So shout out to her, but yeah, so that's a piece right there, man. No, we was talking about that's a good way to tie in everything we was talking about, because we talked about, you know, using that word, Joe Rogan using that word and stuff, and then we talk about dealing with that, but we need to deal with certain things that we do not deal with. What up, though? We do not deal with, you know, as men. You see a man, you talk about sports most of the time.
Right.
Or you're talking about women, one or two. That's the general, you know, thing. You're gonna talk about women, you're gonna talk about sports. But
or you start fucking around, you start talking shit.
Right, that kind of thing.
And that into itself is a type of therapy, but it is a type of therapy. It is a type of bonding.
It's therapeutic, but it's not healing.
There you go.
Because you feel a little better afterwards. I kind of got a little off my chest, you know, whatever. I feel a little better. But once the high wears down, still back to dealing with yourself, because you didn't really deal with the issue. You know, you may numb the pain, but you ain't dealt with the issue.
Yeah.
And I think, go ahead.
I was about to say, like, and the biggest thing of all, and then I'll be right up front, like every now and again, you know, I forget about it and then it comes back up, and then I'm still dealing with this is you know, the death of my mother. You know, my mother passed away last September, and you know, that whole thing, it was so trippy, right? And looking back at it, you know, and when I tell people this, you know, like I've heard stories from some of my other friends once people, you know, had found out what happened, you know, like some people weren't really able to say goodbye to their parent. Either they weren't really able to say goodbye to their parent, and then I also have a friend who is seeing the degradation of one of their parents. And you know, it's everything. It's the circle of life. It's one of those things where you can, you know, you start to quantify your existence. You know,
I was about to ask you something like that. Does it make you losing a parent? You know, I haven't gotten that to that point in my life yet, but losing a parent, did that make you think about your own mortality?
Oh, for sure. If anything, it made me ask myself, have I done enough for my child? What else do I need to do to make sure that he's going to be okay once I'm not here? Right. And then also on the other side, it's, man, my son is all good now. He's got a new ancestor. Right. So, you know, and so some of the things that, you know, I feel when I think about my mother, and one of those things is like, you know, I had to do, I wrote something that I spoke, you know, of course, during my mother's funeral. I spoke at my mom's funeral, and then I also did a slideshow, and then going through the culmination of the person that she was, you know, from a feisty young girl to, you know, a first-time mom, and then having 2 other kids, and then, you know, being a grandmother, first with my younger brother, and then, you know, also the firstborn having their first child, you know, which I honestly didn't think that was going to happen, but you know, here we are. But, you know, here we are.
Story.
Yeah.
We won't get into that right now.
Yeah, no, that's in season 3, I believe. Yeah, that is coming out. But but you know, like being able to look back and see this woman's progression as a human being, and then like hearing all the stories. Like the reason why I'm an actor today is because she wanted to do it when she was growing up. The reason, yeah. Oh, most definitely. But I get my nosiness, from her. I get my I don't give a fuck attitude from her every now and then. No one really sees it, but like if you know me, and if I'm like sitting there and I'm quiet and I'm looking at something's brewing in my head, and I'm like, and it's either yes or no. I do believe in shades of gray, but there are just some things that is just like, no.
I'm the same way. I'm like, yes. I tell people I'm on either this side of the spectrum or that side of the spectrum. I'm very seldom in the middle. I try, and it's just something I haven't able to accomplish yet. I'm either gonna be hot or cold. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
I try to be diplomatic sometimes, as much as possible. But for the most part, I'm like, if I like you, I like you. If I don't, I don't. There's no in between. And you gonna know if I don't like you.
Yeah. And you got to do a lot for me not to like you.
Right.
Yeah. Like it's got to be like monumental, where it's just like, okay, I've done all I could do. Fuck you.
Yeah. That's pretty much how I am. And when I say that, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't think of an incident. I mean, like I said, my memory not good. I can't think of an incident I ever went back.
Yeah.
Once I'm gone, deuces. That's it. I try to give as many chances as I can, because I know once I'm gone, I'm gone. I'm like, I'm gone. You sure?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gone.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. So those are the things that I was able to do to be able to say goodbye to her. And she's got 3 kids that she's left here to carry her on, and yeah, I feel a presence. I'm not gonna front. I feel it when I'm in a state of calmness. I feel it when I know that I've had a real good conversation with my son, because she would have the types of conversations that I would have with my son, or the types of conversations that my mother has had with me, whether it's talking about sex when I was a kid, or whether it's talking about history, right? Like the big thing is like hearing all that shit that she had to deal with as a kid, going to the movie theaters and having to sit up in the balcony, right? Being there when all those great moments in history have happened, right? And especially being from North Carolina, you living in North Carolina, there are like the Greensboro 4, and dealing with all those historical moments of the civil rights movement is there. And she was there, and so hearing from it firsthand from her, and from my dad as well, being from Greenville, yeah,
Greenville,
it's a good thing. Yep.
You said something about the ancestors. For those who don't understand that, explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So, when you're in African American culture, we believe, my sister would be much better than this, but anyway, I'm just going to paraphrase. Forgive me. So, you pass on, and you are in the spirit world, and you are able to see your loved ones. And if they are quiet enough, if they are able to tap into their inner voice, if they're able to tap in to, if they're able to tap into themselves, they'll be able to hear their ancestors. And how I feel about that is, we are the culmination of their existence, and we can carry the ball further down down the road, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we are the summation and more. So when I pass on, I have attached, all the things that my parents have taught me. And so and I see it, in my son. And I love talking about him a lot, not just to be all, oh, I want to talk about my son, but it's one of those things. Well, I do. Yeah, we're parents. We can always talk about our kids, but when we have moments like what we're living through right now,
right,
and you want to be able to pass on this knowledge, to them, because you want to create free thinkers, and you want to be able to give them all the information that they need to be able to evolve as a human being, so that they can become their own, person, right, what have you. Then, I tap into the people, that were related to me that are not here anymore. And yeah.
I like that. Now, how does that latch on or a part of Christianity?
The big thing, like when I talk with my dad always likes to, when I talk to him, he's always like, well, have you prayed? I was like, well, sure, yes. I don't, because I have a strong Southern background, and then Christianity being at the root of all this, especially for our community, I have a great deal of respect on why we use Christianity. So my view on religion in general is on the religion as a tool to be used for one's spirituality. I think I have a ridiculous amount of questions, and I question the practice of that. I am more along the lines of, I'm not agnostic, because I do believe. I believe that there is something that we can't quantify.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like there's something that we can't quantify that is in the universe, right? And we want to talk about the universe. We want to talk about energy, and how energy is transformed, and how we deal with our own shit, like our own mortality, and I'm talking gibberish now. Christianity.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Christianity as a tool, I question, because it has been used against us.
Okay.
Like, it's been used as a tool to keep us down, or whatever.
Right.
Now, do I believe that there is good in that? Of course, I think there's good in anything, but there's also dogma in everything as well, no matter what you practice, right? So if anything, I'm more proponent of doing your practice that's able to, tap you into what you need to do in order to be a good person in this world. But let's not fall for the
banana tailpipe.
Let's not fall for that, right? Let's understand that, hey, some of the things have been used as a tool to keep people down, and and all the things, right? And and honestly, dealing with my mother's funeral and her passing, my childhood kicked back in. I went back to the place where I went to church, as a child. And this is something that my son was able to see. He was able to hear all of the hymns that, I remember singing as a child. Everything from the Lord's Prayer to, to her especially, when we put her in the ground, and, and all the things that culminate of being a Black Southern man, in the U.S. So the beauty of that was definitely seen, during my mother's passing, and the practicing of putting her, laying her to rest, and that's the joy in that, and that's something that I am thankful for, is that I don't really not want to deal with the minutia of what Christianity should be or do, or oh, you don't, like I don't really trip over those types of things, as opposed to I can't really, I'm sorry, I'm not, I can't really quantify, but
I understand. But it's one of those topics, especially in our community. It's hard to really go down a deep ideological thank you, ideological discussion, because I can remember as a kid, my dad's from Alabama. So we would go every summer from Detroit to Alabama, spent a lot of summers down there. So at that time, because the internet made everybody kind of like on the same playing field, so to speak, far as like culturally and everything. But back then, didn't have the internet, so they were kind of a little bit behind us. So going down there, things were still was slower, I guess, for lack of better words. But I remember every Saturday, I had to press my shirt off, press my pants off, polish my shoes, because Sunday, grandma's cooking us breakfast. You put that quarter in your hand and you walk to Sunday school. So as a kid, those things was instilled in you. Those values was instilled in you. So I hear people trash it a lot, but there's so many good values in Christianity.
Oh, most definitely.
Is that the people take a lot. Some people take, the ones who claim to be followers of it, they sometimes take it as a hammer and want to beat people over the head with it.
Right.
Then the ones that are against it, they want to pick apart the little nuances that really, to me, doesn't even really need to be discussing, but to treat each other with love and kindness. To be long suffering, to be merciful. Those things are things that would help us today. And even like this discussion that we started off talking about, those principles today will help if you take every topic that's been coming up in the news cycle and you start applying those principles, half those topics wouldn't even exist.
That's true.
That's
true.
So I don't think you should totally put it away.
No.
People, you need to just stop. Shout out to my people in the nation. Have tremendous respect for them. But sometimes they want to put it away. They'll use it. What I'm saying? Because they do quote scriptures. I mean, from Farrakhan to Khalid Muhammad, a lot of them, they knew the scriptures, so they knew them. They quoted them, but they thought the Quran was superior.
Right.
And
that's the thing, right? Yeah, but that's the thing, though, right? Is that this is the dogma that I'm talking about, and I'm not. My goal isn't to trash really anything.
That's not what we're here for.
I guess my thing is that growing up under being a Southern Baptist and knowing who I am now, who I am now, I have seen that my evolution with my spirituality, which could still be tapped into Christianity, but I also know that I tap into lots of things to find that frequency, to be one, to be one, right? And I'm speaking all metaphysical like, but who else was able to tap into the oneness of man and the oneness of the universe and all that stuff? Let's take what Jesus had to do. When I talk about Jesus to my son, I don't talk to him about, well, did he turn water into wine? I was like, no, I talk about the revolutionary Jesus that trashed the banks and started, breaking shit up to try and get people to realize what's going on, what was happening during his time.
It's about the principles.
The principles, right? Yeah, and that's the big thing. Just like when we talk about, like every January when it's MLK Day, I don't talk about I Have a Dream. I talk about what's the name of that speech? The Other America. Birmingham, but the Other America, right? I talk about that. I talk about when he was like, we need to do a poor people's march. I talk about that. So I realized, like, knowing that, like, when you know that something has been used as a tool against you, then you also know that something else is missing, and it's our job to figure out what it is that was taken from these books,
right,
that we use as a means of worship and as a guide to tap in to the oneness of all of us and the universe and what it means to have this experience here and now.
So we come up on 2 hours, so we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. We're gonna get ready to wrap it up, but I want to say this.
Yeah.
If civilization began in a black continent.
Yep.
Now, I want to say this as a caveat and as part of a nuanced statement. If you want to say Mesopotamia, I still say it's part of a black continent, because at the time, that continent, Mesopotamia, was still connected to Africa, and to give an example, we don't have a problem with the history of Mexico extending up to Utah until the United States broke up those territories. But we certainly have a problem with saying that Africa extended up to Mesopotamia, and parts of today what we call Israel, and the Gaza Strip, all that, India was Africa. They called Ethiopia East. They called India East Ethiopia.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, that's so the term they called them East Ethiopians. It wasn't until people from other, white people, Europeans, came down, named them Indians, and then they named the other people that look like them over in Turtle Island or United States Indians also. Then they named the people down in Jamaica they call those the East Indies. So I make that statement and say, then what did those Indians look like if they named all those people that, this let me say it like this: the center thing is their phenotype and their complexion had to look African.
Had to. Well, I think, to piggyback off of what you just said, let's talk about the Indian caste system.
Yes. Yes, that's another thing, because if you look at that, and you look at the division of Pakistan and India.
Yep.
The caste system was a system designed by not only social economics, but by where you look, the untouchables. I wish I could find this video. They cut the video. When you look for it on YouTube, I only get a little clip. They used to have the whole video on there. But it's this guy. He grew up in India. He was an untouchable, and he breaks down how he is part of the African dispersion.
Oh, well, stuff, dude. If you're as dark, if you're in India and you're part of the caste system, you're most likely dark skinned. And if you're dark skinned, you've got a tremendous amount of melanin. Where is that? That is straight from Africa. I mean, that's not. Let's just stop kidding ourselves,
And
right?
so,
Yeah.
so if you look at it from that standpoint, and then you keep going further, and as the world grows, we all come from one mother.
Yep.
In Africa.
Yep.
It's that it's a small group of people that's trying to divide us and keep us separate.
Yep.
And not there's so many nuances in there that I'm not gonna get into, but
I know it'll be a whole other 2 hours.
But as a general term, that division has been a tool used since the inception of the world.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
even in the continent, they divided each other, based on tribes.
Yep.
They divide each other. And as modern times grew on, they divide each other from religious standpoints. And then even during the Arab conquering, they divide you up from religion. And that's why most of the northern part of the continent is Arab. Algeria, Morocco, all them places are Arab because of the Arab conquest. And that's why when you use the term Moor, it's interchangeable with some of the Africans and some of the Arabs.
Yes.
Because they were so close knit together that they just used them interchangeably. But it was the Moors, the African Moors, that went up to Spain and Italy and who taught them how to be civilized. But they taught us how to be civilized. But when they went up to Spain and Italy, they taught them how to. They was living with their animals. They taught them how to corral their animals, how to put them separate out of their houses, which caused diseases when they was living with them, and they taught them how to cook the food. They taught them, in culinary school, they teach you that escoffier and all that, that the culinary began in France. Culinary began in Africa.
Yeah.
We were cooking food and all that stuff. Africans was doing that first. But they'll tell you that happened, that it started in France, but it started in Africa. They taught them all kinds of how to do a lot of things, read, write, arithmetic, all that, came from Africa.
Yeah.
So that's one thing for us to be proud of. Another thing is that we all came from the same place. So I'm trying to bridge it all together. We all came from the same place. So for us to be proud of who we are, for people who want to put us down, and for those who are on the other side who wants to try to divide us, remember we still all came from the same mother.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's not just Jane Elliott, the famous Jane Elliott, who did all those great experiments of social constructs.
Most of them on YouTube. Y'all want to look them up.
Yeah, look her up, please. It was more people than just her that was, talking about they found bones of mitochondrial Eve in Africa.
Yes.
And this is the proof that was used to say, hey, we found the remains of this one particular woman, a Black woman in Africa, who is the start of our whole existence. Right. So yeah, we should be able to break that down and know, we're not Black. There are no races, right?
Right.
We use it as a means of
RACES, not RACIST.
Yeah, right. We're not. It will be impossible to erase the Black man and woman.
Right.
Like it's in the DNA. It's in the DNA. Right. So let me try to make this real quick. So, basically my whole thing is, you and I would use race. I'm a Black person. I'm part of the Black race, or whatever, in any way, shape, or form, as a mean. Like now, we're using it as a means of saying, "Hey, stop shooting us." Right. And we've also have seen that same concept be used by other people who would say, "Oh, I don't understand why, there is black. I'm not really black. I'm brown." Or when a white person's saying, "Oh, you're not really black. You're brown, or you're tan, and I'm more tan." Yeah, you can get that, and I say that specifically because how this whole ball started to roll was because of the JR experience with guest Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I heard that whole anyway. So I watched that whole episode. I know what they're saying, so I knew the context of whence they were talking about, and that's when I was like, okay, that's really naive. You gotta dig deep into that, but you're not talking about race. You're talking about other things. But like you say these certain you put these certain words together, but it's coming from a place of naivete, right? Naivete. Ooh. Anyway, so whatever. So yes, we are one group of people. We are the human species. Plain and simple. It wasn't until one group of people decided to enslave another group of people that, again, and I like to say marketing because it is marketing. It is. It was we were marketed in a way to make us become chattel, not make us seem like chattel. Right. And so we got to get back to, oh yeah, we're one. We're one. We're one. I am ridiculously proud to be the man that I am now. I'm ridiculously proud of being a black man. My hope as the human species evolves, that we can be proud of who we are and not have to use, and this may, I don't know if it will be ignorant or whatever to say, but my hope is that I don't have to use the atrocities that have been put against people who look like me as a means of pride, because people have hung on trees, right? People have been hung on trees, cut up and sold as souvenirs. And then I look at that and say, damn, that didn't happen to me. Or look what happened to them to be able to put me where I am. See what I'm saying? So I would much rather be proud of our human accomplishments. Right? I would, yeah. And I see us doing great things. I really do. And if anything, I think we have to just start ignoring what these power players are doing, because we're actually giving them power. Like, you can have all this made up money or whatever, whatever. The physical paper, which is still an illusion because it's not backed by anything now. We're giving that power. We're giving the ones who have a lot of that piece of paper power. But as soon as we ignore that aspect and start dealing with each other and fuck them, then we can start doing beautiful things. I really believe that. Like warp speed. I want warp speed and time travel. So say we all. Little Battlestar Galactica humor. Thank you, Jamel. I appreciate you having me. Yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. Always a good conversation. Even on or off the air, it's always a good conversation, man. I appreciate
most
it.
Definitely.
Those who watched us live, we appreciate you. And those who are gonna watch us in the broadcast of it over on YouTube and everything, leave a comment. Let's keep this conversation going. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and share it. Share it to somebody. Let people know that we out here. We're trying to build a media conglomerate, and then when you see LJ Moore here and he's on his TV show, or he's doing his movies, y'all make sure y'all go buy a ticket. Support this man.
Please.
He's doing his film directory, And when he tell us, I put it out there, y'all go support it. You know, let's build and lift each other up, man. You know.
Yeah.
You know, Denzel started off. I remember I was telling somebody stopping the show. I don't know if you ever seen that show he did with a movie he did with God, it's on tip of my tongue. The white guy, George, he played his son. The guy was white.
Carbon Copy.
Carbon Copy. That's the name of it. Carbon Copy. Yeah.
I totally
Carbon
remember
Copy.
that.
Yeah.
Yo, next time, once everything starts popping, you know, I've told you off air, you know, what I've been doing with my venture, but we are really close to getting some shit started. I'll just say that I have a group of partners and we're starting out, you know, we're starting on a line of cannabis
we gotta bring
products.
y'all along. We gotta bring y'all along.
Yes, most definitely. We're almost there. It's a slow, arduous process, but we're almost there, and I can't wait.
Oh yeah. When y'all get all together, we'll bring him on, his son, you. You know, we have a good conversation about it, how y'all got to start it, and you know, so people know that you know what's out there.
Yeah.
And you know, until then, you know, we still gonna stay in touch and hopefully get out there once this COVID thing hit and we do a live show out there.
Awesome. Can't wait for you guys to see my neck of the woods.
All right, Jeff, man.
All right,
good
brother.
talking to you.
Yeah.